start knowing who I have in front of me, and they can also know who is in front of them. Is that okay?
Yo te presento. Bueno, pues buenos días. Welcome for being here. So today we are going to have the presentation for that very dear colleague, Silvia Van Dijk, and she's going to present about the responsive and relevant pedagogies. And well, the time is yours, Silvia. Thank you. Well, I think that we do this presentation in English, right? For all. You're okay?
Yeah, that's not sure. So yeah.
You prefer in Spanish for practice? Okay, thank you.
May I just know who is in front of us? Just very fast, if you want to tell me what your studies are, what your context is, and why you're here.
Okay.
Inglés, español o
Whatever you want.
okay. Mi nombre es Anaí Macías. Mi major en Lab Studies, estoy haciendo bases en las escuelas. Vine aquí porque pues mi familia es de México, quiero saber la historia, pero también más experiencia con niños chiquitos. Mucho gusto.
I'm a Maya and I'm studying elementary education.
Thank you.
Mi nombre es Brenda. Estoy estudiando maestría en higher education. Ya terminé el primer año. Tengo familia que me está pidiendo también. Me gustaría más sobre cómo para aprender antes y vamos a hacer más. Mi nombre es Alondra y estoy estudiando medicina y quiero ser pediatra. Y también esa es la razón por qué vine aquí, porque también ya tengo familia aquí de Guanajuato y también quiero ver más experiencia con los niños.
Muy bien.
Yo? Okay. May I?
Oh, hi. I'm Milena. I'm here to hang out. I'm prima de Professor Gonzalez.
Just.
A mí ya me conociste.
Your turn? Okay. Me llamo Andrea. Soy una estudiante de doctorado y estoy mejorando mi español. Quiero estudiar cómo estudiantes con discapacidades se pueden cambiar los políticos de educación especial.
My name is James. I'm studying business at Arizona, and I'm really excited to be here to experience this.
Wonderful, thank you.
Hi, my name is Adrian. I'm also a PhD student in special education like Andrea, and I kind of study how responsive and relevant pedagogies can be used in a garden space to help support students with disabilities.
Hi, I'm Tatia Gonzalez. I'm the faculty for the Verano en Mexico Study Abroad, and I'm also an associate professor of special and inclusive education at the University of Arizona.
Thank you.
So nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Okay.
How do you say this?
I'm so sorry.
My name is Marisol. I am a four-year PhD student in the school psychology program.
Thank you. My name is Sylvia Andal. I teach in the Faculty of Education in this university already very many years. Basically, I was trained as an elementary school teacher, and then I specialized in teaching languages, and then I've made a PhD in educational sciences, and I have been working for many years to introduce children's rights into the educational system, which still is a pending issue. People don't understand what that means. Doesn't mean to have a table and a chair and to be able to sit there. It means a lot of qualities that education has to comply with if you really want to have a child's rights perspective. We're going to my framework from which I work is always a child's rights perspective. And from that perspective, you will understand a little bit of what I'm going to share with you this morning. I thought, seeing, I don't know how comfortable you are, I made a bilingual presentation. One slide is in English, the next one is in Spanish, the next one is in English, the next one is in Spanish. And I thought to change languages. When you have Spanish there, I will speak English, and when you have English, I will speak Spanish, so that you can more or less follow my narrative. Is that okay with you? Well, if somebody gets stuck, don't understand anything, so that we're not constantly asking, I don't understand, really? Are you with me? You raise your hand and I stop. Okay? So the initiative is on your side if you cannot follow my narrative. Is that okay? Yep. Fine. Okay. I'm going to talk about responsive and relevant pedagogies. Estos dos términos, pedagogías responsivas y pedagogías relevantes, en el mundo hispano prácticamente son conceptualizaciones y formas de trabajo que no se han discutido y que no se han reflexionado en el mundo hispano. Entonces, tenemos muchas dificultades para transitar realmente a un enfoque de derechos en educación si no entendemos estas dos cuestiones. Ahora, en la literatura anglo, next one please, en la literatura anglo, normalmente, a ver, next please.
Estoy checando que todo avance.
En la literatura anglo se está tratando en ese sentido de entender mejor la diversidad. Pero es muy confusa la terminología. Se usa casi como sinónimo responsive pedagogy o culturally responsive pedagogy o culturally relevant pedagogy. ¿Sí? Para mí sí hay una gran diferencia y en ambos enfoques es sumamente importante entender la diversidad desde paradigmas alternos y no desde el paradigma hegemónico. Porque hay cuestiones que son muy obvias, ¿no? Todos los seres humanos somos diferentes, tenemos ancestros diferentes, tenemos culturas diferentes, tenemos un montón de cosas que se ven. Pero hay muchas diversidades que no se ven, ¿no? Inclusive dentro de el mundo de intereses de ustedes. Hay discapacidades que se ven, ¿no? Alguien no puede ver, alguien no puede oír, alguien no puede moverse, pero hay muchas como que pueden ser muy leves, como la dislexia, como un trauma emocional, como un shock postraumático, no se ve, ¿no? Y tienes trauma complejo, trauma normal, y todo eso va generando una enorme diversidad en el aula, que no se ve, sino que, y que no es obvio. Yo creo que en todo el mundo, aunque todos tengan físicamente las mismas características, de todas maneras tenemos una enorme diversidad en el aula, ¿sí? Y muchas veces no es obvio. Y queremos que todos los niños aprendan al mismo ritmo, que todos tengan los mismos resultados de aprendizaje, que todos estén al mismo tiempo listos, que todos se egresen, que todos se titulen, que va en contra de los derechos de la infancia eso. Porque uno de los principios básicos de los derechos de la infancia es mantener a los niños y a las niñas interesados, motivados por aprender y no frustrados. Entonces no se pueden aburrir, por un lado, muchos niños se aburren en la escuela, y por el otro lado, los retos tienen que ayudarlos a seguir aprendiendo, a seguir desarrollándose, a adquirir madurez, ¿sí? Y los profesores tenemos que respetar esos ritmos, ¿sí? Las políticas educativas van en contra de eso, ¿no? A todos los niveles, en posgrados también, ¿no? Quieren que en 2 años hagan maestrías, en 4 años hagan doctorados, Todo porque hay un solo valor en este mundo actual, que es el Dios dinero, ¿no? Todo tiene que ser eficiente, todo tiene que fluir. Y un enfoque de derechos requiere de otra perspectiva. Ahora, ¿qué necesitamos todos para entender la diversidad? No hemos sido educados en la diversidad. We haven't been raised in diversity. So there's a lot of things we have to learn in order to be able to appreciate diversity. The first is to get rid of the hegemonic paradigm. That means people who work from a power position in very authoritarian ways of communicating, making it seem that we all live in democracies and that we have a say and that we can participate, and it's not true. More and more in the last 40 years, politics have taken an enormous bridge between citizens and people who are taking the decisions that matter to the well-being of citizens. And unfortunately, it's not going into a good direction. And lots of it has to do with the education, because we have instrumentalized education from the hegemonic parameter, making as if we have neutral knowledge, doesn't exist, making as if everybody can access knowledge the same way, nothing more different from reality. And we have been brainwashed with the idea that the more you study, the better your well-being is. And we have discarded a lot of human activity as less valuable. We have raised a lot of human activity into over dimensions. What specialists and what football players dare to ask as a honorary is, in my opinion, despicable. So there's a lot of things we have to get rid of if we don't want the school system to be replicating these values and to be replicating the whole structure of the system. And that starts in the classroom. We have to also learn to read in many different ways. Because reading and writing is not only knowing an alphabet, reading a textbook, or writing up something that somebody else asks you to write up. Reading is reading the emotions of the persons you have in front of you. Reading is reading the values, the beliefs of the people that are in front of you. Reading is interpreting the corporal and the body language people have. Reading, if you work with indigenous people, is how to read these knittings. They all are symbols, they all have a meaning, they all have a history. Reading means understanding the music, the culture, the artistic expressions that are around you. Reading is a very complex activity that helps you comprehend reality. And it is not trained only in what commonly within the school system is called literacy. I'm not diminishing the importance of literacy in the sense of comprehending texts, being able to read in such a way that you expand your experiences, being able to read something that helps you develop or that helps you acquire knowledge that's relevant to you in that moment of your life. That's very important too. And that's also a skill that takes a long time. But all the other forms of reading also take a long time, and they have no space in the classroom. Children are not taught to read in a different way, to read each other, to read the context, to read what's happening in the school, to read what the structures are doing to you, to read what's happening around you. So we have to learn to listen, and teachers, we just love to sit here and talk to them. We have to learn to listen. So that means we have to promote real and authentic dialogue in the classroom. Not a dialogue that is prompted by adults, a dialogue that is prompted by the students. We need to foster environments that are safe, and not only physically safe, but emotionally safe, where people feel they can be wrong, they can do things that perhaps are not commonly accepted. They have to feel that they can be themselves. And therefore, we need to open up a lot of spaces for genuine participation. The Convention of Children's Rights has 3 big categories where educators have to comply with. The first one is true participation, prompted by the students. The second is protecting minors from babies to college from any form of violence. That means also symbolic violence, structural violence, not only the bullying that is so much tackled in the classroom. And an adequate provision of contents and methodologies that are meaningful to the students and that are relevant to society. And that combination is not easy, because they have to be meaningful for the student and relevant for the society to which they belong. Okay? Those are the 3 big categories to which you always can test if school is complying with what the Convention of Children's Rights states for education. ¿Lo que sigue? Entonces, para mí hay una diferencia muy grande entre lo que es pedagogía responsiva y lo que es pedagogía relevante. Pedagogía responsiva responde a la persona, pero la persona completa, su físico, su emoción, sus necesidades físicas, y ahí es el primer momento donde los seres humanos, los profesores...
Para que se vea mejor la pantalla, así. ¿Está bien así? Para que
Como
se vea
usted.
mejor.
A mí me da igual. Y tenemos que responder al niño completo, a sus necesidades físicas, a sus necesidades emocionales, a sus necesidades cognitivas y a sus necesidades espirituales. Y también las necesidades espirituales en la escuela no tienen espacio, porque siempre se le vincula a religión, pero el espíritu no es religión. El espíritu es aquella voz interna que te dice lo que está bien y lo que está mal. Es el desarrollo del ethos, es el desarrollo de la ética personal de las personas, de los ciudadanos, ¿no? Y ese ámbito espiritual tampoco se le dan los espacios que se requieren en la escuela. Entonces, necesitamos partir de las experiencias vitales de los estudiantes, necesitamos comprender, y por eso la escucha es muy importante, la subjetivación que los niños hacen, porque cada quien subjetiva de manera diferente. Hagan la prueba, pregúntenles a sus hermanos o hermanas sobre cualquier suceso que pasó en la familia donde estaban los dos. Mi hermano y yo, que ya tenemos los dos más de 75 años, hacemos a veces eso para reírnos muchísimo. Porque lo que él recuerda y como él lo vivió emocionalmente es totalmente diferente a como yo lo recuerdo y yo lo viví emocionalmente. Y esos procesos de subjetivación son algo muy personal y cada quien lo vive de manera diferente. No hay en ese sentido una realidad objetiva. Siempre hay realidades subjetivas. Y esas realidades subjetivas son las que importan para que nosotros, como educadores, podamos enganchar con nuestros estudiantes. ¿Sí? Y luego, obviamente, la persona en su conjunto podemos interpretarla y entenderla mejor si conocemos su contexto social, su contexto cultural y su contexto ambiental, que también muchas veces se olvida. Y no es lo mismo crecer en una ciudad que crecer en el campo. No es lo mismo vivir en un departamento que vivir en una casa, en una granja. No es lo mismo crecer con padres que trabajan todo el día a crecer con una mamá que está todo el día en la casa, pero que está resentida. No es lo mismo. Y todo eso influye. Todo eso tiene que ver con cómo el ser humano resignifica su realidad. Porque, como decía Humberto Maturana, somos seres sentipensantes. Y puso el senti antes. Primero viene la emoción. Y a partir de la emoción, nuestro pensamiento se moldea. ¿Sí? Y hoy en día vemos que en todas estas cosas la escuela no ha dado resultados. Más y más nuestras sociedades están polarizadas, se pelean, no saben argumentar, no saben resolver conflictos, ¿no? Y mucha gente piensa que repitiendo lo mismo 50 veces va a convencer al otro. Pues así no es el asunto, ¿verdad? Ahora, eso es responder a la persona. Ahora vamos a ver qué cosa es ser relevante para la persona. Le tiene que hacer sentido a la persona. Eso es lo que es relevante. Si no le hace sentido, if it's not meaningful, entonces la escuela se convierte en un lugar de eterna aburrición. ¿Sí? Y lo peor que le puedes hacer a una persona es tenerla aburrida toda la vida, porque entonces matas su motivación, matas su vitalidad, matas todo, ¿no? Entonces, lo primero que necesitamos entender es que ese calibrar entre el reto para mantener interesados, ¿no?, a los estudiantes y la diversidad, cómo lo manejas en un grupo y cómo colectivizas la experiencia de aprendizaje. No tenemos que ver con individuos, tenemos que ver con un grupo. Y eso implica que tenemos que tomar en cuenta la comunalidad, que sí es un término que no entienden mucho los anglos, pero que se desarrolló mucho en Latinoamérica. ¿Sí? Porque la comunalidad implica que entiendas el placer de explicarle algo a tu compañero que tu compañero no entendió. El placer de complementar lo que tu compañero dijo. El placer de comprender al otro y sentirte acompañado. Tenemos que generar esa comunalidad en el grupo para que las personas se sientan sostenidas. Y la única manera para sentirte sostenido es cuando de manera relevante el diálogo entre pares ayuda a los procesos de aprendizaje, asegurando que nadie se aburra y que nadie sea buleado o violentado y que nadie esté caminando en las puntitas de sus pies porque no puede con los retos. ¿Sí? Entonces tenemos que ir adecuando las exigencias y eso es un acto de balanceo entre el individuo y el grupo de todos los días. Y además, si lo haces bien, es muy placentero y muy divertido. Pero tienes que ir generando, por un lado, las condiciones para que este individuo, esta persona, adquiera una buena autoestima, acepte su cultura, acepte sus condiciones de vida que pueden ser buenas o malas y por lo tanto aprenda a ser resiliente, porque el mundo no es perfecto y tampoco lo vamos a hacer perfecto en ningún lado, pero sí tenemos que enseñar a la resiliencia, ¿no? Entonces tenemos que aceptar los contextos sociales, culturales en los que vivimos, ¿no? Y a eso nos ayuda a ser parte de un grupo, sentirnos sostenidos, sentirnos comprendidos, sentirnos aceptados. Todo eso le abona a nuestro desarrollo ético. Y los niños aprenden a dialogar, a aceptar, a responder, a ser solidarios, etc. El sistema escolar no hace eso, desgraciadamente. Entonces, lo relevante es poder dar respuesta a los problemas que tienen nuestros estudiantes. Entonces, si tenemos abuso sexual en nuestro grupo, ¿qué vamos a hacer con eso? ¿Cómo lo vamos a tratar? Con las limitaciones institucionales que tenemos. ¿No? Yo les voy a platicar de una experiencia que tuve en un proyecto de educación comunitaria en Sonora. Había muchísimo abuso sexual y muchísima violencia, porque Sonora es muy machista, y los papás, cuando llegaban borrachos, se sonaban a toda la familia. Los niños compartieron todas sus experiencias. Y los niños diseñaron una estrategia de protección a todos los niños de la comunidad. ¿Cómo fue esta estrategia? Los niños hablaron con sus mamás y sus papás. Les dijeron, hemos acordado que cuando algún papá llegue borracho a la casa, todos los demás miembros de la familia se van a ir a dormir a la casa de alguno amigo de la comunidad donde no haya una persona borracha. Y así, solito que se acabe con su borrachera y solito que acabe con sus enojos con la vida. Fue una estrategia sumamente efectiva. Los niños dejaron de ser golpeados, las mujeres dejaron de ser golpeadas, no tuvimos que hacer denuncias, no tuvimos que buscar a un juez, no tuvimos que dejar a los padres en impunidad, porque los niños sí hicieron mucho trabajo de todo lo que la violencia les implicaba a ellos y lo expresaron en dibujos, en esculturas, en textos, en cartas, en carteles. Y toda la comunidad se convirtió en el museo de cómo los niños viven la violencia. Y eso para las mamás y los papás fue algo que les hizo mucho sentido, que les dio mucha vergüenza y que los motivó a empezar a cambiar sus conductas. Y no de un día para otro, porque sabemos que esas conductas no se cambian. La adicción no es algo que resuelves en 24 horas porque ya caíste en la cuenta que tu adicción es mala, ¿no? Pero había una comunidad que estaba sosteniendo la decisión que los niños tomaron y que ningún adulto se nos ocurrió, por supuesto que no. Esos son los espacios de participación genuina, ¿no? Donde los niños plantean sus problemas, hay un ambiente emocionalmente seguro para poderlo compartir, no hay vergüenza. Tampoco nos manejamos en el idealismo de que lo vamos a denunciar y vamos a cambiar de la noche a la mañana. No, no. ¿Cómo podemos todos ir transitando hacia mejores formas de relación? Ese es el reto. Y esos son los problemas reales que le hacen sentido al niño. Entonces los niños aprenden a escribir con sentido porque escriben su historia. No escriben lo que el maestro les pide que escriban. Escriben sus emociones, escriben sus experiencias. Revisas como maestro, corriges la ortografía, corriges la redacción, corriges todo. Y luego invitas al niño a que haga un texto impecable para poderlo exponer a nivel comunitario. Y los niños están súper motivados a aprender a escribir bien, a no tener faltas de ortografía, a redactar de tal manera que se entienda y que se pueda exponer en un buen cartel. ¿Me doy a entender con este ejemplo? Eso es una pedagogía culturalmente relevante para una comunidad donde el alcoholismo es una adicción prevalente. ¿No? Esa es una respuesta culturalmente relevante. Que ningún adulto lo piensa, los niños lo pueden pensar. Los niños además tienen las relaciones para establecer esas redes de soporte a nivel de la comunidad. Porque ellos saben quiénes no se emborrachan, quiénes no son amigos y no se emborrachan juntos, a quiénes hay que pedirles techo cuando el papá viene rugiente, etc. Otra comunidad mucho más, donde las mujeres eran mucho más luchonas, aquí en Dolores, en Samarripa, trabajando el mismo tema, simplemente prohibieron la venta de alcohol en la comunidad y cuando los hombres querían irse a emborrachar, se iban a Dolores, que está suficientemente cerca, y no podían regresar a la comunidad hasta que estuvieran sobrios. Y eso lo implementaron. No, aquí fueron más radicales que en Sonora. No, tenían menos borrachos en la comunidad. Era más fácil. ¿Sí? ¿Se dan cuenta? Pero esos son temas que tienen que estar en el aula. Y con esos temas aprendemos a leer, a escribir, a leer el mundo, a resolver los problemas. Entonces, tenemos una pedagogía culturalmente relevante, ¿no? Y obviamente, todos esos temas vienen. Si ustedes saben que en México 6 de cada 10 mujeres han sido abusadas sexualmente de niñas. 6 de cada 10. Todas las personas que están en el crimen organizado tienen trauma complejo. Lean a Saskia Niño de Rivera. Ella ha hecho estudios muy recientes, publicaciones de hace 2 años. Uno se llama Un sicario en cada hijo te dio. Es una Saskia Niño de Rivera. Es una estudios, tiene un doctorado en psicología y un doctorado en criminología, en derecho, criminología. Y se ha metido a todas las cárceles de México a estudiar a la gente que extorsiona, a la gente que mata, a la gente que...
Tiene una serie en YouTube, la pueden encontrar.
Sí.
Es muy famosa.
Entonces, esos temas no se trabajan en las escuelas, porque nuestros profesores no saben cómo hacerlo. Y entonces no tenemos pedagogías relevantes, porque no estamos atacando los problemas y los retos, tanto culturales como sociales, que tienen nuestros niños. Entonces no podemos hablar de una pedagogía relevante si no trabajamos con los problemas que están viviendo los niños y los adolescentes. Porque ya en secundaria y prepa empiezan problemas mucho más complejos que incluyen la política, que incluyen un montón de reflexiones a otro nivel, digamos, de las operaciones formales. Pero también a nivel del pensamiento concreto, en la primaria hay muchos problemas que se pueden resolver. Pero esos son los temas que tienen que hacer el currículo. Entonces, ¿hasta dónde hemos llegado? La que sigue, por favor. Sí, todavía. En las pedagogías responsivas hemos hecho el tránsito de la enseñanza centrada en la didáctica y en el performance del profesor a la enseñanza centrada en darle seguimiento al aprendizaje de los niños. Se supone que la mayoría de los países tienen ahora child-centered curriculum. Se supone. I should be speaking English. So as that will respond to responsive pedagogy. Responsive pedagogies make the transition from a teacher-centered school to a learning-centered school. Is that from in traditional education, the didactics were the most important element, and teachers had to be able to explain clearly and correct clearly and design the right exercises and the right amount of repetition so that children learn something. I don't want to dismiss that. That is a skill that any teacher should have. But it's not enough. Teachers should not be centered in what they're going to say. They should be centered in what do my kids need? What exercises are relevant? What haven't they learned? What games can I design for them to remember, to memorize? Things like basic arithmetic, to be able to be fast in making your calculations. But you don't learn that if you don't exercise that. But if you only have to exercise it like with quizzes and competition between people and who does it best, doesn't it works for some people, but not for many others. But if you design good domino games, if you design nice memory games, if you design a lot of those games, children will automatically draw to those games in order to learn and memorize the things that represent a challenge to them. Because that's their language. The main language for children is play. So anything that children should be able to memorize or to really, after they have understood that 3 times 5 is 3 real amounts of 5 things makes 15, they have to memorize it. And they have to also understand that it's the same making 3 times 5 or 5 times 3. But then they have to memorize it. And in order to be able to memorize it, they have to do it very often. And the most natural way for children to memorize things is by games and by play. So teachers should be very imaginative and inventive in making all kinds of games and playful things for children to be able to learn what they need to learn and what is relevant for the society in which they live. Okay? So,
Next or not yet?
not yet. So responsive went from teaching to learning. Huh? The emphasis and the starting point is the learning. And the teaching has to adapt to the learning rhythms of children. That is what I understand on responsive pedagogies. And relevant pedagogies is to go from a set curriculum where content is designed someplace outside of your classroom to an open curriculum where you know which capacities your children need to have at the end of their primary school or at the end of their secondary school or at the end of their college. And once you know the capacities a child has to have, the curriculum is your responsibility. Teachers find that a huge challenge. The curriculum should be made up of the living problems of children. What are the children experiencing? What's their interest? What do they want to know, learn in science? What has them captivated? So that learning is a pleasant and joyful activity in their lives. And that's our main thrust in school. So that children keep that curiosity, keep that imagination, know that they can learn a lot in spite of any disability, discapacity they have, and that they will be supported by the group to which they belong, no matter what their personal abilities are. And so we go from individualistic education into communal education without erasing the person. Because many of the traditional communal education erases the needs of the individual. We have to make a good balance between the needs of every child and the needs of the group. Okay? That makes a relevant pedagogy. And this was
I
that.
don't know what happened with them. It's strange. because-
And then how does all this get up to a spiritual level? Life experiences should be aesthetic. And when you have this joy, natural, when you have this joy of life, and you experience pleasant experiences, physical, emotional, cognitive, then you are nourishing your spirit. And then if you also have enough time to contemplate and to reflect and to look to the clouds of the sky today. I always recommend teachers from preschool on, take 5-10 minutes to go and lie down on the grass or on the and look at the sky, look at the leaves of the trees, look and just be quiet. And also very much that children that are raised in violent homes and violent communities very often have violent behavior. So how do you monitor that? First, you have to make that child feel he is worth your trouble. He is important to you. He is valuable to you and valuable to the whole society. But that there are things where you have to take care of the person that's beside you. You cannot bully the person that's beside you. You cannot exercise violence on a person that's beside you. And in order to understand that that is what your heart says is the correct way to behave with each other, there needs a lot of space for interiorization. People have to be able to reflect on themselves and their own behaviors. So teachers should invite children who have difficulties with coping with the others to think about what's going on within them. Why are they doing what they're doing? Why are they anxious? What is happening in them? What is being triggered within them to do what they're doing? And once you have this habit of asking these children to sit down quietly in a restroom, every school should have a restroom. Children very often say, when I ask, what's the ideal school for you? They say, oh, a school that has a lot of hammocks between the trees so that I can go and lie there and look at the leaves. Well, we should all have a nice place in our schools where children can go and look at the leaves and reflect on their own behavior. reflect on what they're doing and why. And you only have to ask children how to make their school a more agreeable place. They always have one of these wonderful ideas. I never had thought of hammocks, but they. No. So it's an exercise we should be doing the whole time. And that will make it possible for humanity to transcend this polarization, the way in which we're acting nowadays within our societies, and the way our governments are dealing with each other. It's ridiculous. They behave like 4-year-old children making a tantrum because they don't get their way. But that is the product of our educational system, unfortunately. We have instrumentalized education for so many years, and we have focused on the person, but not on the collectivity. We have not taught the new generations the 3 big categories that should be present in any content. Does it help you to take better care of yourself? So if you're learning chemistry, you should learn about the pH in your body and what the pH in your body should be and why. Then chemistry makes sense. And chemistry can help you to design a better diet for yourself. So you are taking care of yourself. Is it helping you to take care of the others? And the third one, is it helping you to take care of Mother Earth? Because Mother Earth still is the basis of life. If we continue to throw all our waste to Mother Earth and to destroy all the mechanisms Mother Earth has to keep in balance, we are destroying life. So all knowledge in school should be relevant to these problems. These problems should be in the classroom and should be your thread to make up your curriculum that is relevant for the children with children. So that means that our teachers have to be like in Finland. It's the only country where, in order to be a teacher, you have to have general knowledge, a good level of general knowledge of all sciences, natural and social sciences. You have to have a psychological makeup that gives you this interest and this patience to be balancing the individual and the collective needs. And only then you can enter teacher college. So we need people who are able to build up their own curricula in any community, taking as a departing point the living experience of children, the social, contextual, cultural environment, and to be teaching relevant information for our society. That means learning to take care of themselves, learning to take care of the other, and learning to take care of Mother Earth. And that's what the Committee of Children's Rights is. You have to open spaces for participation, protect them from any bullying, and provide them with relevant information. And the relevant information is made up of everything that helps you to take care of yourself, anything that helps you to take care of the other, and anything that helps you to take care of Mother Earth.
I'm wondering if you could explain a little bit about the Convention on the Rights of Children, because it sounds like maybe Mexico's actually like signed on to it, but I know in the US there's a lot less emphasis on it unless, you know, people are specifically bringing it in. Like I know some countries are like I don't know if the word is ratified, but we might have much less understanding of the convention.
But the Convention of Children's Rights is a legal document that the US has not been able to sign, not because they don't want to, but because your judicial system is so awkward that children could be suing their parents for any stupidity. So that's the reason they haven't signed the document. In countries like Mexico, we have signed it. We even have changed our article that regulates education, saying that education has to have a rights perspective. But nobody understands this rights perspective. Because this document should be read in a complex and holistic way. All articles are related to all the others. And if you read that convention from a complex perspective and the dynamics perspective, so that you can read the right of the child to integral development together with the right of the child to quality education, that's a dynamic duo. And then if you read the children have the right to their mother tongue, what does that mean? Again, with the right of relevant education and quality education. So, and it goes on and on. There's a lot of articles on protection against violence. There's a lot of articles on participation. There's a lot of articles on the health system that will be provided and on the education system that should be provided. And that goes on with the very basic principle of the Convention of Children's Rights, which is the best interest of the child. But the best interest of the child cannot be determined by adults. The best interests of the child can only be determined in dialogue with the child. So, in that sense, it's a very complex document. It's very worthwhile for any educator to read it. In Mexico, it is. It should be compulsory. I always teach it. Every course I give, there's no way my poor students can get rid of that. One, so that they understand how to translate a legal document that has pedagogical implications into the school system. And because our politicians don't understand what it means, all this hanging. But they don't really understand what a paradigm shift the Convention of Children's Rights has brought with to really recognize children as right holders and as whole persons that have to be able to dialogue with adults what their best interest is in any situation. That's the main core of that convention. And that convention is only the only one on human rights that balances between the individual right and the communal rights. So it's an interesting document if you read it. There's a lot of good readings on it. The ones that have written most on this are the Swedes that have very much worked on this thing of what does it mean to have a rights perspective. It's the Swedes and the Norwegians that have made most of the conceptual and theoretical work on the consequences of the convention for the educational system. Okay?
Okay.
Anything else?
Questions, I think that we should go on to that part. Or do you want to maybe you put another all the conclusions? Maybe you have already.
We're not ready for the end, or I'm not ready.
Well, we can
Yes.
carry on with the.
What are you going to learn this summer from everything I have said? How are you going to cope with that? Tomorrow you're already going to a lab of lombricomposta. Where does that fit in?
It's really listening to our colleagues and maybe exchanging conocimientos with each other. I think that we don't have an opportunity to view our students, our children, our youth as partners. So I think it's an opportunity, you know, in this work and partnering with the kids, our kids who we're working with, and listening to them and learning from them. And maybe having those type of dialogues with them as well as our colegas, you know, and having equal leverage. I think that's something we all need to unlearn because schooling in the US traumatized me. And I think it traumatized all of us. We've been conditioned to think certain ways. And, you know, it's an opportunity, this summer is an opportunity to interrogate those ways and make sure that we are like unremembering, you know, like definitely
Getting rid of.
getting rid of, the ways that we were accustomed to be.
I think that's a good exercise for the summer, so you're out of the system.
Yeah.
That's good. Somebody else who wants to contribute? On what their goal is for this summer?
I also just want to build on what Andrea was saying, like part of this is also, and the part of that trauma of the US is like learning is so conceptualized as something that happens in the head, in individual heads. And I just really appreciate this bringing us back and just emphasizing the senti pensante part of it. I mean, that there are very few scholars in the US anyway who are conceptualizing learning as spiritual and embodied practices. Well, there's more now, but this, what children are feeling, what's happening in their bodies, are such important parts that really aren't addressed very well in our teacher preparation programs. And we are also doing a small scale study of like what we're learning this summer. And yesterday I was talking like through our IRB process, it got slowed down because we're scholar mothers. We have our children with us, and for us, it's not us, the teachers, and you, the learners. All of us are teaching and learning together, including los chiquitos, ¿verdad? And it's those moments of like stopping to look at the swallow nest, stopping to look at the butterflies, and these moments are really important, and like just a shift in the time and space, and I just really appreciate your attention to that.
Thank you.
First of all, thank you for your talk. I think many of the topics or things that you touch on are new to me and the interests that I have. I think from the moment that I knew I was coming, I was more like open to see how can I serve and collaborate with the schools, not so much me telling them what to do or say, because I don't know the community. At the same time, even though I'm Mexican, I'm an outsider of the community, so being mindful of that and see what I can do in this limited time that I have is important for me, and that's why I was a little bit late, so I apologize. But I think I'm thinking of one student that I'm gonna be working with, getting to know her and her context is important before jumping into any conclusions, and for example, getting to know her, she really likes pie de queso. So I'm thinking I'm gonna bring some pie de queso next time we have the person. I remember that and I thought of her, and I'm thinking already of bringing some pie de queso and share that with her. So I think that's important in connecting.
Yeah, it's very important to
Yes, and create that safe space, student and students I'll be working with.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah. Somebody else? Yes?
Just from everything, it's like kind of what Andrea was talking about, and like the unlearning part. There's like a lot of that that's going on, and that's kind of moments to unlearn and restructure some of the things that, because I'm a teacher as well, so like when I get back to the classroom, like how can I restructure these things to better fit the needs of students? Because there's like so many ideas that I have that are like they're very teacher centered, but how can those same ones be restructured so it's student centered and learning centered? So that's the goal: restructure things that already work and then figure out new things that could work with students.
Yes. When we're going into lombricompostas, for instance, it's something that children find fascinating. But it's very important for taking care of Mother Earth, to be aware that the soil is living soil. And at the moment, we press the soil with tractors, we make it toxic with all the pesticides and artificial fertilizers. We're killing the soil. We're not taking care of Mother Earth. We're making Mother Earth sterile because we're crushing the whole life in the soil. Because we learned in school that soil is matter and inert matter doesn't matter. Soil has to breathe, to have all those bacteria and enzymes and everything working down there so that life can thrive. And we have been killing it systematically with our agricultural practices. So it's very important to learn those things that are very, very basic for humanity to solve the problems we have and we're facing as humanity as a whole. For instance, you're going to see only compost, but it should be seen in a much wider context. And it's very nice to be able to have lombricomposta in school in order to have your own compost for your own vegetable garden and see how Mother Earth works when it's living, when it has vitality, and when it is able to work like it should work. And that is relevant. Children find that fascinating if you know how to bring it, and if you don't bring it theoretically. You have to do it. You have to get your hands dirty. Yeah.
We have like a worm bin at my school, and that's like the most common that the kids ask is like, can we go look at the worms? And it's like, there you go, can we go look at the worms? Yes.
And that's a nice contemplative activity.
Yes.
Where children are stressed, go and look at the worms. No?
It's also reconceptualizing responsibility because I think that, you know, in having worms and composting, you're really caring for yourself and for others, like you mentioned. And I think that we tend to view responsibility as like, oh, we have to do this, like we have to do this. It's because we say, but making it so that it's coming from a threshold of care, right? Of nurturing.
Exactly.
Instead of something that you have to comply with, you know. So I think it's just like that idea of critical care, you know, and finding joy in that care and taking care of yourself and others, you know, because what happens to others happens to you. What happens to the earth, you know, that stewardship, that's really important. You know, it's our home, it's our mom, it's our life. So I think that viewing things as string together, like it's like strung together, like everything is connected.
Yeah. And that's why making your own curriculum is so interesting. Because you can just be knitting. It's like knitting, you know, with different threads of information, with different threads of disciplines. Something that is pleasant and gives you an aesthetic experience that helps you flourish as a human being. That should be the goal of agriculture. Yes, it makes you flourish as a person, and it makes your community flourish as a whole. But if you don't experience that joy, it's very difficult to have that motivation. It's this joyfulness, it's this attitude that will help you keep curiosity, keep your imagination going, finding solutions, not getting depressed. What's happening in the world? Oh, we're so rushing, I don't want that in children. Huh? Because that's the answer of very many young people, which is horrible.
Many years ago, I had a student teacher who taught me a lot about joy because she asked me, she's like, you know, there are memories I have from when I was a kid in school, but they're very few. Like, she's like, the things I remember are making green eggs and ham or things like that. So her goal was like, I want to create learning in ways that children remember it 20 years later.
Exactly. And that is the aesthetic experience that will make school meaningful. A joyful experience that will really help individuals and societies to flourish and not fall into the horrible things we're living now. Gracias. No, un placer. Compartir. I worked so many years in communities and in schools and teacher training. It's a lifelong now.
So you were close to where we are, porque nosotros venimos de la Universidad de Sonora, y usted estuvo en Sonora también.
Trabajamos con Save the Children a nivel nacional. Yo fui muchos años directora de Save the Children en México. Entonces, trabajamos con proyectos en todas las partes de México. Yo siempre estaba, bueno, estuve estacionada en la Ciudad de México hasta el año 1990. Y desde 1990 estoy estacionada en San Miguel de Allende, pero de ahí siempre me he movido por todo el país, ¿no? Y por todos los continentes. Tengo sí. Ella es de mi rodada. Con ella hemos tenido muchas cuestiones juntas, nada más que ella siempre fue académica. Yo soy académica desde el 2004, antes de eso siempre fui activista. Ya cuando dije, bueno, ya estoy grandecita, ya puedo hacer cuestiones más calmadas y empezar a escribir todas mis experiencias, porque ya estoy volviendo a la universidad. Entonces, tengo caminos un poco diferentes. Que siempre, y además, tengo muchas dificultades con muchas de las cosas de los jesuitas. Y los jesuitas cooptaron el sistema educativo mexicano por muchos años y han contribuido mucho a esta instrumentalización y no me da un poco de...
Now we need a whole lecture.
No,
on
ya.
that.
Gracias. Bueno, una fe, pero que les sirva para repensar todo lo que están viendo en este verano.
Once I reflect on everything we talked about today, will you be okay me reaching out to you? Or will you